asking for service or demanding things from his followers. But Srila Prabhupada always wanted to give back, and when Prabhupada would come to the temple in LA, I always think that's such a nice example of that, how Srila Prabhupada would reciprocate with us this bhakti, this exchange of love, by giving flowers to the devotees as we would line up along the pavement. It was very sublime, because Srila Prabhupada, he was never rushed. He would, we would give him a flower, and then Srila Prabhupada would give us a flower. And I always think how Srila Prabhupada said that love is an exchange of feeling. You need two for love. And I remember he would, sometimes when we would give a flower and then he would give one back, Prabhupada would just stand there, so when we bowed down, we could put our head right on Srila Prabhupada's feet. And he was always, had this very ecstatic, blissful smile, and you could see that Srila Prabhupada loved us in such a way that was practically incomprehensible, because he saw us as these lost particles of spirit soul from Lord Krishna, and he was so happy to play a part in bringing us back to Krishna's lotus feet. That's me. Whoa. Didn't expect me there. So this was just a real highlight in my life of being able to, get a flower for Srila Prabhupada and give a flower back to Srila Prabhupada. So simple, yet so sublime. And there was always one devotee who would block Srila Prabhupada's walkway, his pathway into the temple, just so he could get to ask Srila Prabhupada for his mercy or to say something to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada never ever got disturbed or agitated that this person was being so bold in his approach. He would always just shake his head wonderfully or touch the devotee on his head with a blessing. So we all felt that this was a very special time where Srila Prabhupada was really giving us a blessing. And when he was handing us this flower, it was like, Prabhupada was touching our heart with that flower, that soft lotus petal of his flower-like glance.
Shortly after this exchange, everybody would follow Prabhupada into the temple, and there was the greeting of the deities. Prior to this, at least in Los Angeles, I don't think that there was really a formal greeting of the deities ceremony. So I believe this basically introduced the greeting of the deities ceremony as we know it today. At least it certainly did in Los Angeles. And then typically on many mornings, Shilabhati would fill the deity room with frankincense, clouds of frankincense. And then when she opened the doors, the frankincense would often billow out into the temple, and there would be this sort of cloud of frankincense, which also to me was very mystical, and Prabhupada bowing down. And then afterwards he took Charnamrita, and then he would proceed to his Vyasasan. And I remember Vishnu Jan leading us in the Samsara prayers. One time Prabhupada, at the end of the singing of the Samsara prayers, said very gravely, Samsara dava nalilid haloka, and then he said the whole first verse, and he said, what is the meaning? And everybody was stunned, because probably a few devotees knew, but after being quizzed like that from Prabhupada, nobody knew, and then one person recited the English meaning of the verse. But Prabhupada then said, that we should all know what the meaning was.
It wasn't too long after I joined that the Govinda prayers started to be played in the morning. The album had come from England, that Radha Krishna Temple album. Just one morning it happened. It seemed quite spontaneous that the deity doors opened up and the Govinda prayers went on. And Prabhupada went through as normal, offering his dandavats in front of each altar. But when he went around and he sat on the Vyasasan, tears were coming down his face. He was so pleased by the Govinda prayers, and he wasn't able to speak for some time.
We were celebrating, I believe it was the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture, and he was saying how he had not done any service for his spiritual master, and he was thanking all of us, implying that, without us, his service couldn't have been rendered, when in actuality it was only by Prabhupada's mercy that we were able to render any service. And so he said, because I have nothing to offer to my Guru Maharaj, I'm going to offer all of you. And then Srila Prabhupada went and he performed arti to the deities, and he offered us to his spiritual master. I don't know exactly the spiritual process, but I definitely felt the result of Srila Prabhupada's kindly connecting us with his Guru Maharaj. And then after arti, Srila Prabhupada turned and started dancing, and the word can't really be understood in terms of what Srila Prabhupada was manifesting. It's more like when Lord Chaitanya is described, and he was dancing in a circle like a firebrand. It was like one continuous movement. Srila Prabhupada was hopping up and down across the temple room, back and forth. And the entire, place where we were, the whole space, was immediately transported to another dimension. We were really out of the material world. And, I was a very young devotee, and I remember to this day, just my crying, tears running down, my face, and realizing how Srila Prabhupada was actually entering into our hearts, and he was cleaning them, he was purifying us, so that someday in the future we'd actually be able to render devotional service.
We were sitting in Srila Prabhupada's room, and Prabhupada had just had an arti for his little Radha and Krishna deities. He had music of himself singing, playing, and Prabhupada was playing kartals. We were sitting next to him, and then when the arti was over, Jagadish handed Srila Prabhupada a letter from Dhammaraj Prabhu requesting initiation. And so Prabhupada said he could get initiated. Then he turned to Jagadish and he said, "Do you know how to perform this fire sacrifice for the initiation ceremony?" And Jagadish said no, he didn't know how. And so Prabhupada instructed someone in the room to give Jagadish instructions on how to perform the fire jaga for the initiation. And he, at that time, he said, you have to know how to do this ceremony, because someday you will have disciples of your own. He looked at me, and I was like in my 8th month of pregnancy, and he said, just like before, she was not mature, but now she has become mature and she is having children of her own. So in the same way, someday you will also have children of your own.
And when it was my turn, I was called up to Prabhupada's Vyasasan. And then he didn't chant the whole mantra. What he did was chant word by word in my ear. Then after that, he took the thread and put it on my shoulder, and he patted me on the shoulder, and he was smiling. And I was thinking, this is encouraging. And I was feeling like he was happy that I'd become a Brahmin, and also perhaps felt that I was qualified, and that's why he was smiling and encouraging me. But I also felt that he was happy that he was making Brahmins, that he felt his movement was expanding, that now someone who had taken first initiation 6 months earlier was given a Brahminical initiation because he was following the process. The process was working. And I think this indicated to Prabhupada the future success of his movement, and I think that's why he was encouraged, and that's why he was smiling, that he felt that he's able to make Brahmins out of Westerners, and these Brahmins are needed in society to spread Krishna consciousness.
At this time, there was what Prabhupada considered to be the minimization of the spiritual master by the leaders, mostly from myself. I was the most infected with this, I might say, jealousy of the spiritual master. At this visit to Los Angeles, things were going wrong. From ISKCON Press, which I was in charge of, the books were printed. Prabhupada's title was not properly put. It just A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. His Divine Grace had been left out. And even one book, one of the Bhagavatam chapters just had A.C. Bhaktivedanta. Even the Swami was removed. I presented Prabhupada a book from ISKCON Press from Boston that we printed, and he opened the book and the binding just snapped right off. And this was in the temple.